especially Jenya, whom I'm the most scared of. Okay, let's start this morning off by looking at our code from yesterday, right? So we had this nice little loading thing. We added this loading feature. So when we refresh, we get this loading symbol and then it works, right? So what about if I added some weird thing into my code here? Like what if I not only did I have slow code, but sometimes my Axios request worked out and sometimes it did not, right? So maybe I have some weird piece of code that I add where I get a number or something, right? I could say like const num, and I'll just use some math to get a random number between to make one either 1 or 0. So I'll say math.random. This will give me some number within 1, and I'll multiply that by 2. And so by doing that, our number will always be 0 or 1. Sometimes it'll be 0, sometimes it'll be 1. Does that make sense? That's just how math works. Some random decimal times 2, floored will either be under 1 or over 1, right? So it'll either be 0 or 1. But now, what if I said like something like, hey, if we don't have a num, so if my number is 0, or I'll just kind of phrase it maybe so it's a little more clear. So if my number is 0, let's throw an error. Throw error, and I'll say like network error. Okay. So, and I could do this same code if we want to stay consistent. I'll add that to our old fetch posts here as well. So you might be asking me, well, why on earth would we ever want code that half the time fails and the other half the time works? Well, we wouldn't, right? Obviously, this is not something you would actually add. I just want to have this be a pretend for our next thing that we're going to add. So now every time I load, sometimes we get this loading, and then sometimes we get our posts, and sometimes when I load, it should. So I keep getting my posts, but let's see, maybe I can get it to break. Okay, maybe not. Num is equal to 0. We're throwing an error.
Do you have to do num equals to 1 because it only gives you 1 or 2?
No, this will give me 0 or 1. Should be working. But why am I still seeing my posts? Well, let's just, maybe I might just be like consistently be getting lucky.
I would say maybe a debugger, see what your number is.
Yeah. Let's just make sure. I mean, this was working earlier when I wrote this code. But debugger, let's just make sure our num is, okay, our num is 1 that time. So we're going to see it. Maybe we're just like getting lucky. Num is 1. What the hell? Okay, well, maybe we are just getting lucky. This really should sometimes give us 0. 1 again. Huh. Well, that's kind of fascinating. Here, observe. In the console. Let's just check something. See, sometimes it's giving us 0, and sometimes it's giving us 1. So we see that that line, why it keeps giving us the right one for us on the refresh is blowing my mind. Amazing. Well, I need this to not work sometimes. I don't get it. That's got to be like really statistically improbable, right?
Like the luckiest man in the world, like getting
Yeah.
ones and
Okay.
Like it's like it changes. Well, it's like it resets and just goes back to 1. Maybe if you do it like 10 times in a row, it wouldn't be 1 10 times in a row.
Here we go. I'm just going to take out the slow code for a second. Okay. So I can refresh it faster. Ah, this time I broke it. Finally.
hey,
Okay. Oh, that was annoying. I don't know why it was like flipping. I don't know why I was getting so like perfectly lucky. The math is correct here. Anyway, so here's your task. Sorry. Now that we've written this code that breaks, sometimes breaks, sometimes doesn't break. What I want you to do, I want you to add the ability. I want you to do, I'm going to have you break it into groups and you're going to do a couple different things. The first thing I want your group to do is to add the ability for us to be able to delete a post by clicking on it. So if I click on this post, it should go away. If I click on this post, it should go away, right? Just a regular delete. Delete me. I should click on that and that post will go away. So I want you to add that. That's the first thing for your group. After that, I want you to add an errors slice. And since right now, half the time we try and fetch all posts, it currently fails, although we were just statistically improbable. But yeah, half the time it should fail. When the fetch fails, let's notify the user somehow and give them the option to refetch all our posts. Okay, so essentially what I want is if the user refreshes the page and the page breaks, which it didn't do that time, it's there. I want it to tell us, hey, network error, try again or something, and I'll click on the button to try again, and then we will try again to get all the posts. Okay, that's the goal. Any questions on that? Okay, see now it broke. This time it should say network error here. The button would try again. I would click on that button and then maybe we'll get all the posts or maybe we won't again. Any questions on what I want you to do? Okay, I'm gonna commit this so you have it. Sometimes I'll say errored code. I'll stop my share. Okay, and we're gonna try to do this over the next 25 minutes. So use, the information of the things we learned yesterday. You can either do it in the create async thunk and use their responses, or you can go and do it the more traditional way where you can just directly dispatch via your thunk. Okay. All right. Let's open up our breakout rooms. Let's do. And we will create breakout rooms. Let me just look through these. Okay, yeah, this looks good. All right, I will see you all very soon, specifically in 25 minutes. That out. Let's go over it. Right, so we've decided that when somebody clicks on one of our posts, let me move this to the side that I like. When somebody clicks on one of our posts, so we didn't even get to the error thing, but when somebody clicks on the post, we want to just delete that post. So without further ado, let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and remove at the moment this error thing, because if I'm working on removing a post, I don't ever want it to error, right? This is really for the focus on the error slice. This one I thought we were going to get through in about 5 minutes. So I was off. It obviously took us longer. Okay, so in our posts, in our post slice, we want to add an ability to delete a post. So that's going to go within our reducers object. We have an add post, a receive all post, and so we'll have a delete post. And this is going to point to a function that takes in state, add an action. And now we get to think, oh, well, what are we actually going to do? So what are we going to get with our action? Who knows? Who can tell me?
The ID.
Yeah, we're going to get the ID, and that's going to come in as what? What with the action?
Payload.
Yeah, exactly, right? We essentially, the ID to remove, I'll comment, ID to remove is action.payload. Okay. Now, what do we know about our state?
It's an array.
That's right. We know our state is an array of objects. So how can we know, how do we delete something from our array?
Filter.
Yeah, okay. Filters one is a great option, right? We could filter, we could iterate through it and return every post that doesn't have that ID, and we end up with a new array, right? So one solution, return state dot filter for every post. We want post dot ID not equal to action dot payload, right? Something like that. Action.payload, we'll see something in a minute, but I'm just going to...
Should it be action.payload.id? Because the payload is looking at the object of the ID in the title?
So that's an interesting question, Ashim. So it depends. When we type in action.payload, what do we expect to have? What's it going to look like?
We passed in as the argument for the delete post.
Right. So what will be passed in? Will it be this? The number we want? Or will it just be the number we want?
It'll just be the number.
Just for the number.
Potentially, right? It's up to you to decide how you want to design it. For me personally, I think when I do action.payload, I'll just get back my number 4. But if you did call the argument and pass that in, then you would, Ashia, have to do action.payload.id. It just depends on what you want it to look like.
Corey, can you say that one more time?
Sure. So this is going to get invoked at some point when we call. So somewhere in the code, we're going to have something where we call dispatch, and we're going to call delete post. Oh, sorry, not event. This just dispatch, and it's going to say delete post. And this is going to take in some argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we get to decide what that argument is. Does that argument look like a number? Or is that argument an object with the key ID pointing to a number? And so based off of that decision is what kind of payload we're going to get. Because action.payload is going to point to whatever we put in as our argument. So if it were me, I'm probably just going to design it so that I pass in my number. One less thing to think about. But you could, right, do that as well if you wanted to. And then you would be calling .id in our actual function. But since my payload is just going to be a number, I don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and export our delete post. Okay, delete post. And then let's go actually make this work for us. So we have to go to our post index. We'll need to import our delete post from our post slice. We have our map here. I can add a listener into our UL. And then I'll just listen for a click. And on the click, it's going to fire some event. And I'll dispatch my delete post. And inside of that, I'll pass in something. Maybe the event.target.id, which means my LIs also will need IDs. So I'll just make those post.id. So if I do that, I should be thinking, all right, well, maybe this will work now. So let's go ahead and check. Okay, so we have our code here. I'm going to write cat. I click on cat. And when I click on it, something happens, but we see I don't actually seem to delete cat. I don't know if you see that. And so, I can go, what's wrong with that? So I look at my action and I see I am calling the right action. I know cat has that ID right here, 1,000. And this is my payload, 1,000. What's wrong? Thousand.
You need to know what element to remove.
What element to what?
Well, so it has the payload filters. Oh, it might. I don't
Payload
know.
string.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing some people notice David Kong, right? We are seeing one as a string, one is not a string. The payload's coming in as a string. So when we're doing our comparison here, where we're saying the ID not equal to the ID, these are all coming up true. So how can I convert our payload to a number?
Parse.
Sure, yeah, Parsons one. What's another one?
Number.
Number, nice. What's another one? One more for good luck. Parcent,
Add it to 0.
number, what'd you say?
Add it to 0.
Add it to 0? No, that will still keep it a string.
Oh,
But you could do that as well. This is a bit operation that would turn it into a number as well.
What is that?
Just a plus sign without any space in front of it
So that works like all the time?
for turning a string into a number. Yes.
Okay.
But I'm going to do the one that is a little bit more easy for people to see and understand what it is. So we can change that to a number. And now we go to our code. And I can click on key SS. And now things seem to be working. We can remove a post. All right. Let's do another way. So this is fine. I could do that with filter. I could also use splice and mutate my array, right? And how could I do that? I could say, okay, let post index, and I could use state dot index of function. And this is going to take in a post, and it's going to return the index that where this is true. So I'll say post ID is equal to, okay, this time I'll use parsent for fun. Action.payload. And then I could just go, okay, state.splice.
I'm missing an L in payload.
Thank you. State.splice, I'll remove it at the post index, and I'll remove one element. I go, okay, that looks good. I'm hearing myself echo in somebody's speaker. Okay, hello. All right, stopped. Okay, let's see if that works as well. And we will click on things. Also not working, not yet. Why is that not working? Thought it would.
Did we change,
Let's see.
the payload?
Yeah,
Was
because the payload still is a string. Yeah.
You did.
Oh yeah. Well, that's because that's part of the action. The payload is always going to be the string.
Should it be not equal to instead of equal to?
Well, that would give us back other. That would give us back the first thing in the array that's not equal to that. Let's think. You know what? I don't think it's index of. I think it's find index. I think I'm just using the wrong function. Yep, that was it. Okay, so that's a second alternative. See, I don't need to return on this one because I'm mutating the state directly. I do need to return this one because I'm returning a new state. Any questions on that?
Yeah, one question, Corey. You could also have put the on-click on the LI itself instead on the UL.
Good question. So I could have put the on-click listener here on the LI. That being said, it's a bit better for performance reasons, typically, to put it on the UL, because let's say I have like thousands of LIs. All of these LIs have to be listening, have this listener attached, and so they're all using some computing power to wait and listen for their click. While if I put it on the UL, I can make use of event delegation and event bubbling, where the event will continue upwards of its parents. And so my UL can listen, for one UL listener, I can listen to thousands of LIs. So this is advantageous for performance purposes. It's a good question. Okay, so let's just go over what we saw there. The only thing we added was a delete post inside of our reducer, state action, and we returned a filter where it wasn't our payload. And then in addition to that, we gave our LIs an ID and added a small listener on the UL. And that's it, right? So it's really important that we can do those kinds of things. That said, let's go back into our breakout rooms let's give it a half hour, and this time go ahead and add that error slice, right? So use yesterday's inspiration to guide today's. Okay, let's try to all finish in the half hour if we can. All right, push yourselves. We can do it. And I'll push this code. All right, let's do it. Breakout rooms, options, 30 minutes. Let's do it. We got this. Woo woo. How did this go? How did it go? Throw it in the pool. How'd it go? 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 How'd it go?
Close. We got so close. It got shaky.
We also got close. We just missed a few things.
We have the logic right, but this
Awesome.
well, a piece of the logic might not be working, but like we just came across like some weird issue. Like it was weird.
Did you add the errors into your store? The error reducer?
Oh, snap.
Yeah, the slice has to be. Yeah,
That's
happened.
probably.
All right.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. That is
Just
crazy.
like that.
So simple to fuck up.
Oh, God, that hurts. All right, let's. Here's where we're at. We're at 3s and 4s. It's not too bad. Let's go through it. Let's have it two ways. Yeah, shall we? Just like a good old fashioned dinner. Two something. Bolognese two ways or something. Okay. I'm gonna share the screen. All right. And you all can see the screen, I presume. Oops, toodly loodly. Let me just make sure I can set everything else up. All right. So, this loves to switch on me. Drives me nuts. But okay, so we have this new thing. So the first time, let's go ahead and do this with our create async thunk. So first thing I should be thinking about is I'm going to create an errors slice. So new folder, we're going to make errors. Inside of that, I'll make a new file. I'm going to call this errors slice.js. I can go ahead and import my create slice. And we'll get that from our at redux.js/toolkit. Okay. And we go, okay, let's go ahead and create the slice. So we'll export const, and we'll call this error slice, and that will be equal to our create slice. Takes in an object, and now we have to put in those key values. So it always takes in a name. Okay. Errors always takes in an initial state. So this is kind of fun. Tell me in the chat what you put as your initial state.
Oh,
False.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of falses. Thank you, Phil, Maria, Danny, J, Ohidur, Nilver, Kevin, Fowler, Giovanni, David, Nilver, Crystal, Deja, Sin. Okay, Ashia. Okay, so we got a lot of falses. And Henry, thank you. So let's think about this. So part of the thing was currently fails. When the fetch fails, lets the user it's going to notify. Wait, did I adds an error slice half the time the fetch currently fails? When the fetch fails, let's notify the user and give them the option. So I could just go this failed, and then I could just tell them. And in that sense, I could have a Boolean, right? I could definitely make that Boolean work. But what if I've been very meticulous in designing my backend? So much so that I want to give the user a specific message, right? Because maybe they didn't put their email, and I could say, hey, that email's already taken. Or I go, oh, that password isn't secure enough or something, or something else. But I want to be really specific, like, oh, age is required. But for some reason, I let that go into my backend. So I'm actually, in this time, I'm going to make my initial state just an empty string. And if I get a new state, I'm going to go ahead and make that my new state so that I can really tell the user exactly what the error is that got thrown. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'm using this create async thunk, which is going to give me the ability to listen for promise pending, fulfilled, and rejected. So I get to think, well, do I need my errors to actually have any reducers of their own? Do I have to have them actually be aware of anything? And I'm going to go with no, because all of its state is going to be currently dependent just on however our fetch posts did. So I'm going to go, okay, I don't need reducers. I'm just going to have extra reducers. And that way I can listen to the actions from that fetch all posts. So I have to import that. Whoops. Fetch all posts from dot dot slash post slash post slice. And I'm going to listen to our fetch all posts. And I essentially want to be able to like clear my errors every time somebody makes a search. So I'm going to say pending, because whenever there's a new pending promise, it means like there's something out there that I'm waiting to get a response for. And in the event that something's pending, I'm just going to go ahead and set my state to be an empty string. However, and if the fetch, so then I go fetch all posts. Now, do I care if it's fulfilled? I'm seeing some shaking heads. Yeah, right. I don't really care because I've already cleared it when it's pending, and I'm not going to have an error if it's fulfilled. So I'm really just going to care about if it's rejected. And if it is rejected, I'm going to do something. So I'm going to get a state, an action, and I don't really know yet what I'm going to do because I'm not so familiar yet, let's say. So I'm just going to say action. I don't know. I'm going to put my debugger in there. Okay. I've created my error slice. I'm going to need to export default my error slice dot reducer. And I will have to add that into my store. Right? That's important. And I'm just going to comment these out. Say errors reducer. Make that. And say errors. Okay, so now I have my errors as well in my store. So I go, cool.
You misspelled errors a bunch of times just previously.
Did I?
You put double R in the wrong place. I don't know if that matters, but I
Oh,
think your
over
error
here.
slice.
Yeah, I did. Okay, that matters. Thank you. The rest are all good, right? Yeah. Silly. Thanks for that catch, Jenya. Okay. So now I'm listening, I'm doing stuff. Maybe I'll make an error select, export const select errors, which will just be my function that returns my state dot errors.
You're missing an R.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm never gonna do this again. Okay, we'll go to post slice. And let's go ahead, not our post slice, post index. And let's go ahead and import that as well. So we'll import our select errors from our errors. And let's go ahead and pull that in our use selector as well. Select errors. Okay, so I go, okay, awesome. Now I have this errors. So I can do a quick check like, hey, do I indeed have errors? So, okay, let's do it. I'm going to do it under loading. I don't think it will matter though, but I'll say, hey, if I have errors, let's go ahead and do some JSX here. We should return. Whoops. Okay. So if I have errors, let's go ahead and show those errors. So I'm just going to say errors. And we did promise the user to have a button. So let's go ahead and give them a button. And we'll say retry. We'll just have a retry. And so we want something to actually happen on this click so that the user can click this button. And when this user clicks this button, what do we need to happen?
It needs to refresh.
It needs to refire that Axios call, right? Or
It
refresh.
needs to refire that call. So I'm going to have to dispatch our fetch all posts. So every time they click the button, they'll go and we'll try to fetch all the posts again. So maybe it doesn't work. I will try again. I think that might be all the code we actually need. Let's see where we're at. Okay, we got all the posts this time. Let's refresh. Maybe it will break this time. We got all our posts again. I swear I'm like the luckiest man in the world here. Oh, we hit our debugger. Great. So it actually got rejected. And now we can see what actually is our action. So I'm like, what is our action? Well, we don't have this action payload anymore. What do we have? We have meta. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I do see error, which makes sense that I would have an error in a rejected promise. And I have this cool network error. So maybe it's action.error.message. I go, okay, I like that. I'm going to go add that to my code. I'm going to go to our error slice. And instead of returning action, I'm going to return action.error.message. And now I'm going to hope that I can get the error again. We'll see how many times it takes. All right, loading. All right, this time we got our posts. This time we got network error, retry. Oh, okay, don't mind if I do. Retry. We see our loading again, and this time we have our posts. So bada bing, bada boom. Any questions on this way of writing it? So once again, in our post slice, we have this fetch all posts in our create async thunk that gives this action with its 3 different promise states. And we have our errors reducer just listening to pending and rejected and updating our state, our error state accordingly. That's all that's happening. Let's go ahead and write it another way. So let's say I don't have this fetch all posts, but instead I have this fetch all posts. And we have async dispatch and toggle loading and all of that. So now when I throw an error, in here, I want to be able to receive my error. So, okay, let's go ahead and try that. So I'm going to go to my error slice. I'm going to comment this out because I don't want pages importing from each other. And I'm going to comment out my extra reducers because I'm no longer listening to another set of reducers. But instead, my errors will have their own reducers. And we can have a couple actions. Maybe I'll have a receive errors action. Receive errors. And this will take in a state and an action. And this one will just go ahead and return our action dot, maybe it's payload. Maybe it's just action dot payload when we want to receive the error, because we'll dispatch the error. And let's also make a clear errors. And clear errors is just going to clear our errors, very much like the way we wrote our pending. Okay, so let's go ahead and export those this time. So I'll do it up here. And we'll say export const receive errors, clear errors, and we'll make that from our error slice dot actions. Awesome. So now we can import these into our fetch all posts and use them to our advantage. So let's import them at the top. So this time I will import receive errors. Did I just call it receive error? I said receive errors. Receive errors and clear errors. And that's going to be from our errors. Whoops. Error slice. So now, when we dispatch and we go to load, let's go ahead and turn off our errors. So I'm going to dispatch our clear errors. Now, if we end up throwing an error, network error here, we can just go ahead and dispatch. Well, I'll just move this line. We'll dispatch receive errors, and we'll take the error and the message of that error. And let's see if that one works. Oh, freaked out. Toggle loading is not defined. Oh, okay, so I have to do a couple, I have to update our loading thing as well. So toggle loading needs to come back, which means my loading slice shouldn't listen to any of these. Because I'm doing it one way. You kind of want to commit to one way or the other way. So is that going to work? Let's see if that will fix everything up. I don't know if we have to comment anything else out. I think we might have to comment out this one too. Okay. Let's try it. Whoop. Reference error, cannot access fetch all posts. All right. I think somebody annotated on the screen here. Not sure how to remove that. Yeah, somebody else. Okay. So it's working. Let's see if we can break it. Get an unlucky one here. Just getting lucky and lucky and lucky. Oh, there we go. We got our network error, our retry button. We click and we will retry. Oh, we got our error again. We'll retry. And now we got our post. So there you have it. That's how we can handle our errors two ways. So this way was doing the more traditional way of writing with a thunk, where we have our dispatch clear or dispatch toggle loading, and we're doing all of our dispatching. The other way is to have the create async thunk, and for all our other slices to listen to changes in its pending promise. Any questions on any of that?
Question: if you was to put the dispatch receive errors underneath where you have throw error on line 19, would it still work as well?
So I don't believe that will work, because when we throw errors, we'll be taken out of that. So that's essentially like a return of this try. Like we will be removed from this try. So this should be unreachable code. Can't touch this. Let's prove it to ourselves, shall we? It broke. Nowhere does it say can't touch this in the console. Therefore, we truly can't touch this. You could put it above this if you wanted to, but it's probably better practice to deal with the air stuff in the air where we're catching it, because we don't know what the air is at this point, because the actual air that's being thrown is happening right here. So this is where we can actually catch that air.
Got it.
Good question. What else? Other questions? Which way do we like more? What's our favorite way? let's do it. Let's do the feedback. Let's do the nonverbal feedback feature. Put yes if you like the async thunk way more. Put no if you like the traditional thunk way more. Let me see who likes what. Okay. Interesting. Pretty split. Okay, yeah, we're like really split. That's interesting. Like almost dead down the middle. I like that. Like, I want to like remember who everybody is and pit the two halves against each other, like my grandmother would do. So how come? Why do some people like the? Let's like discuss it a little bit, shall we? Why do some people like the create async thunk way more?
I think it's cleaner. I
You
think
think it's
that
cleaner?
I think it has less margin for like error, because if you're literally just like listening for like what the post is doing, and you're just putting that under like extra reducers and just like listening for whether it's like pending, resolved, or anything like that, then I don't know, I feel like it's an easier route. It's an easier way to sort of get to what you needed just to create an error slice. It's an easier way to get to that endpoint, less room for error. So yeah.
Yeah, it's way quicker to just listen for whatever promise you get, whether it's pending or not or rejected, versus kind of I don't know what the other stuff is about.
Okay. Just so you know, since you guys have talked, 3 people have taken away their nose, so you might be convincing people. I'm not sure. Of the people who like, whoa, what is going on? Of the people who like the thunk way, what do you like about that way more than the create async thunk? Henry J. Jones, Maria C. People are like removing their answers so quick. Well, I know it's the ones that aren't green. Right? Crystal, David.
I would say for me, I was just used to like using dispatch. So looking at the create async, I didn't see like this. It was kind of tripping me up not seeing like they have to be dispatch to go into
Yeah,
this.
there's a little bit more hidden
like,
away.
Yeah, in terms of like when is my error slice meeting with the other slice, that was like what was messing me up.
Cool.
Like how to connect them.
That makes
How I
sense.
like dispatch.
Cool. Yeah. Right. It's okay to have a preference as a programmer. That's really normal. Programmers should and are often very opinionated in the way they think things should be done. Certainly, if you've spent any time with me, you'll know that I'm really specific in the way I think semicolons and things should be placed, and like compulsively so. It doesn't mean it's always right, but it's right for me. So it's good to find the thing that's right for you as well, and have your own preferences and style. Just make sure you can do both ways. Okay. Any other questions at all?
Yeah, can I see your error slice again?
Absolutely. Right, and I could set this up to be implicitly returned. Might be a little cleaner to make that a one-liner, but I don't know. It's all good.
My question is, with the 2 different ways how you wrote your error slice, like the reducer, one has the extra reducer, one doesn't, right?
Right.
My question is, let's say you're using the create async thunk, right? Could you use the way how you wrote the code for the way how you did not use the reducers and the error slice?
Wait, so what's the question? Hang on, one more time. Sorry.
So in your error slice in the reducer, one has like the extra reducer, one doesn't, right? So I'm asking if it could work like vice versa, where for the regular thunk, if it could work with the extra reducers.
Can the regular thunk work with extra reducers? Well, it can still listen to fetch all posts, but it doesn't have this nice dot pending, dot rejected, dot fulfilled quality. So like if my extra reducer here just wanted to listen to something, something, that's fine. It just won't have that something dot pending, dot fulfilled and rejected. So it's not wrong. I just needed to comment this out because this is importing in the way our file structure set up. This is importing fetch all posts from post slice. But since we're doing it the like regular dispatch way, our post slice is importing our error things from errors. So we have this circular dependency where they both depend on each other, and that won't allow me to like necessarily get it to work correctly.
Corey, in the create async thunk, is there a way, how would we be able to use like the catch, like the error from the catch to kind of set the error message string state?
Sure. So when we did it with this way, and we throw this error message here, and we did error.catch, and we passed in this message, this in our error state, in our rejected, actually listened for that, and our action had this error key on it, and it had a message attached to it. So we were able to display and update our error slice by doing action.error.message on the rejected.
Okay.
And this is getting it from right here.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. And there are some like other things you can do in Redux Toolkit that I haven't had to do yet, but you can return like there's some built-in functions that you can look into if you need the error sent in a different way and things. It's kind of interesting, but I didn't have time to dive too deep.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? Any of this? Anything at all? Now I'm getting zeros like crazy. It's the worst random thing ever. And we can still delete things. Okay. Well, then that is everything that I had prepared for today.